Hello chess lover. Welcome back to Checkmate.
In today's video, we will take a look at the 3-move checkmate patterns. Every chess player should know this position, especially the absolute beginners. Keep in mind that, you cannot expect this position from a well-playing opponent. Before starting the moves, if you are new to my channel, consider subscribing the channel. Also hit the bell icon and select all, so that, you won't miss any video uploading in the channel. Let's look at the moves. Chess is a really complex royal game, with lot of theory to learn. When your chess knowledge is going up, it becomes harder and harder to beat higher rated opponents and masters. It is because they are spending hours of time daily on learning theory, practicing games, practicing puzzles, studying classics, and learning lots of strategies. Here I am showing you how to win a chess game in just 3 moves. If your opponent is making a really bad moves, actually it is not bad moves, it is the worst moves. There are 2, 3 and 4 move checkmates. If your opponent played pretty bad moves, you can win the game just in 3 moves.
E4. Moving the king pawn by 2 squares. Which is the most played chess opening? It will open up diagonals for light square bishop and the queen. Suppose your opponent replied with f5, here the firing begins.
f5. Then white is playing e-capture f5. Here you can capture the unprotected pawn on f5 square.
Now look at the board. Black's h5 e8 diagonal is very weak, and king is exposed diagonally.
Pawn to g5. Your opponent again played a big blunder. This time you can teach him a lesson. The move further weakens black's king side. This is your best time to blow with your queen. Queen to h5. Checkmate.
The game is over. Here the black king doesn't have escape squares. Normally in the opening, one will move e-pawn or d-pawn before finishing the opening stage.
You can also achieve checkmate without capturing the pawn. Let's see how. Here white is starting with pawn d3. Black reply is f6. Again black made a wrong move and weakened the king's side by opening h5 e8 diagonal.
White played pawn e4. e4 opened up the path for white's bishop and the queen.
Black replied with pawn g5. After playing g5, this position is similar to the previous one. Here, in the 3rd move, queen to h5 leads to the checkmate.
Only difference in the second method is that, we did not capture any pieces or pawn. You can achieve 3-move checkmate in different ways. The key idea is to clean up the diagonal for your queen, when your opponent is playing g and f pawns. Especially f pawn to f4.
Let's look 3-move checkmate in some other way. White opened with e4. Here black replied with e5. Both sides opened in the natural way. e4 e5 is called classical king-pawn opening, which is the most played opening in chess.
Here, you can play queen to h5 square. From h5 square, the queen is attacking 3 pawns.
That is, pawn on h7, pawn on f7, and pawn on e5. But out of 3 pawns to 2 pawns are protected and e5 pawn is not protected and hanging. In this position, black has to move his knight to c6, to protect the e5 pawn. Instead of knight to c6, here black moves the king to e7, which is a big blunder and unusual move. King to e7. Queen capture e5. Here, black king doesn't have an escape square, so it is a checkmate. Now let us see one position from black's perspective. White opens the game with e4. It is normal opening move to control the center. Black replied with knight to c6. It is a rarely played opening, but not at all a bad opening. It is called Nimzovich defense. Here white is playing his knight to e2. Which is a bit passive move. Also blocking the path of bishop and the queen. In the opening you have to acquire maximum space and try to free up maximum pieces. c3 and f3 squares are the ideal squares for the knights. From this 2 squares c3 and f3, knight can control the center. Here black played knight to b4. Of course it is not correct to move a piece twice in the opening, which will delay the piece development. Now white is trying to attack the knight, and playing pawn to c3. Pawn c3 move has a drawback. While moving pawn to c3, white is losing control of the d3 square. Now the smashing move by black. Knight to d3. A beautiful smothered mate.
That's it for today's video. And I hope to see you again.